So you want to become an expat, huh? But you think it's all about luck, right? And maybe you're just waiting for that luck to come your way and fall in your lap. You know what I mean? Just happening to be in the right place at the right time, or meeting the right people, or stumbling upon the perfect opportunity. Stay to the end of this video to find out what kind of role luck actually plays in becoming an expat. Some of you might think that people who end up living abroad somehow got lucky. Maybe they landed the perfect job offer, or they had the right connections, or if you're talking about digital nomads, they magically figured out how to make 6 figures while lounging on a beach in Bali with their laptop. But you know, that kind of luck doesn't mean anything unless you have the guts to take that first step. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're sitting in your comfortable living room, scrolling through Instagram, looking at all those beautiful expat lives. The envy starts to build up. You think, wow, must be nice to be that lucky. But don't forget, they had to pack up their lives, sell their stuff, say goodbye to friends and family, and dive into an entirely new culture where nothing felt familiar. But they did that. They were willing to take a risk. Some might say it was foolhardiness, rashness, impulsiveness. Others might say, well, it was courage. But the fact is that taking risks is a non-negotiable. Anyone who has become an expat was willing to take some risks. That's right. Becoming an expat is not for the faint-hearted. You'll need to take risks, and I mean real risks, not the kind where you risk getting a bad meal at a new restaurant, but the kind where you might fail spectacularly. There's always the risk that your expat life won't pan out the way you expect. You might get homesick, or the job you lined up might not work out, or maybe the culture shock will hit you like a freight train. But here's the thing. Those risks are exactly what can bring a worthwhile result. Nothing feels more empowering than knowing you were willing to throw yourself into the deep end, sink or swim. When you take that kind of risk, you're telling yourself and the world, I believe in myself and my ability to adapt, to figure things out, and to thrive in the unfamiliar. And trust me, when you're sitting in a tiny cafe in some far-flung country, speaking a language you didn't know a year ago, you just might feel like a superhero. At least you'll be proud of yourself. Hi, I'm Kate, and this is my YouTube channel, Kate Gypsy, that has videos to encourage people to break free from their routine and create a more interesting, more adventurous lifestyle for themselves. I myself did that back in 1982 when I took a short-term job in Indonesia when I was 38. And I'm still here living my best life 42 years later. You may be having trouble leaving the comfort zone of your home country. Yeah, comfort zones are traps. They lull you into a false sense of security. They whisper in your ear that staying in your comfort zone, in your home country, is safer, easier, better. But you know what? Comfort zones are liars. Sure, staying in your comfort zone feels good, until it doesn't. Until you realize that life is passing you by. that your dreams of adventure in a new country are just slipping through your fingers because you're too scared to take the leap. When I first moved abroad, I had no idea what I was getting into. I wasn't terrified, even though I didn't know the language and I didn't know anyone in the country, and I wasn't even sure if I'd be able to make a living. But staying in my comfort zone wasn't an option for me. I knew that if I didn't take that leap, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. And guess what? Every single uncomfortable moment, every awkward miscommunication, every pang of homesickness, they were all worth it. Because outside my comfort zone was where I found the life I truly wanted. And get this, you don't need a perfect plan to make that leap. You just need a willingness to adapt. Yeah, that idea that you need a perfect plan with all kinds of research before you move abroad is a popular myth. It's actually a way to avoid taking the leap. Spoiler alert, you don't need a perfect plan. In fact, you'll never have a perfect plan. Things will go wrong. You'll face unexpected obstacles that you never could have anticipated. But if you're willing to adapt, you'll be just fine. Think about it like this. Moving to another country is like navigating uncharted waters. Sure, you can plot a course, but storms are going to come. The key isn't to avoid the storms. It's to learn how to sail through them. Be flexible, resourceful, and willing to change direction when it's needed. One of the best things I ever learned as an expat was how to embrace uncertainty. I stopped trying to control every little detail and started trusting in my ability to adapt to whatever came my way. When you let go of the need for a perfect plan, everything becomes easier and more fun. At the end of the day, becoming an expat is about enjoying the adventure. It's about living a life that's rich with experiences, challenges, and personal growth. It's about waking up in a country that you've chosen and thinking, well, what's next? What unexpected thing is going to happen today? It's about becoming comfortable with the unfamiliar and finding joy in the unexpected. When I moved overseas, I had no idea how much it would change me. I didn't just learn a new language or adapt to a different culture. I learned about myself. I became more confident, more resilient, and more open-minded. Living abroad pushes you to grow in ways you never thought possible. You become more adaptable, more resourceful, and more courageous. And here's an important bit of truth. The world is so much bigger than you think. We often get caught up in the bubble of our own lives, our own countries, our own culture. But when you become an expat, that bubble bursts wide open. You're suddenly thrust into a world that's full of new ideas, new perspectives, and new ways of living. And that's so exhilarating. One of the best things about being an expat is that you get to see the world from a different angle. You're not just a tourist. You're living in a new country, experiencing it in a way that few people ever will. You get to build relationships with locals, learn their customs, and immerse yourself in a culture that's different from your own. And in the process, you start to see the world and yourself in a whole new light. So now that you've listened to what I've had to say, let me ask you a question. Is being an expat really just luck? I think you can see by now that, yes, luck has a role, but it's a very minor role. There's so much more to it than luck. Basically, it's what you do when you're faced with everything that comes your way. Those things are opportunities. Do you walk away or do you grab it? Forget the fantasy that moving to another country is a magical, serendipitous event that just falls into your lap. Nope. Becoming an expat is about spirit, moxie, and being willing to launch yourself into the unknown. You've got to be ready to leave your cozy, predictable life behind and say, I'm doing this, and not care that others might think you're out of your mind. If that sounds scary, that's okay. But then, why do some expats thrive and others struggle? Well, that's about being adaptable, open-minded, flexible, and willing to embrace change. I don't mean that you're going to change who you are, but you need to be willing to accept the changes that you encounter on a daily basis. And yeah, I mean just about every single day. I find changes just about every day, even after more than 40 years as an expat. It's true that my becoming an expat was kind of accidental, but it didn't start with luck. When I found the job in Indonesia, I'd also found a U.S. State Department job working in an embassy overseas. But I didn't want the safety or the possible monotony of a government job. I wanted something more open-ended. At the time I took the job in Indonesia, I had a lot of friends who thought I was crazy, out of my mind. Why would I take it? I knew nothing about Indonesia, and none of my friends did either. But it was an opportunity, and I grabbed it. And I had other friends, though, who said, "Oh, you're so brave." They wished they had enough courage to do what I was doing. I wasn't brave. I was just desperate to try something new. I've known many people who sat on the sidelines, envying those who live abroad, dreaming about sipping espresso in a Parisian cafe or wandering the streets of Tokyo. What they didn't understand was that those of us who made the leap didn't just wake up one day and stumble into an exotic life. We made a conscious choice to take risks, step outside our comfort zones, and face the unknown head on. So, if you're thinking about becoming an expat and you've actually made that final decision, my advice is simple. Take the leap. It's not about luck. It's about having the guts to do it. It's about being willing to leave your comfort zone behind and embrace the unknown. It's about taking risks, adapting to new challenges, and opening yourself up to a life that's richer and more fulfilling than you ever imagined. And if you have questions about taking the leap, please leave a comment below.